Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Want to make money and have more room in your home? Well, Deb Colameta will tell us how. Deb, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Deb, you've written a book called Best Offer. Tell our audience, what is that book about?
Well, the book Best Offer, Best Life is about how my family found success by decluttering our home and selling our excess through online yard sales.
No, I've never heard of that before, and that's why I was so fascinated with this. When you say an online yard sale, can you explain that to those of us who don't know what that is?
Absolutely. I actually only found out what an online yard sale was by accident just a few years ago. We had taken in a few nice items from a friend who was downsizing, and we didn't want to say no to them because they were all pretty valuable. And we started looking at the pile and thinking, gee, we're really not going to use any of these items, and we don't have the space. We were starting to purge our own home in hopes of maybe moving to a bigger house. So it really probably wasn't the right choice for us to take in these items. But I wanted to make sure that they didn't get thrown away. So I offered some of the items to some friends for free, just to make sure they found a new home. And one of the friends said, gee, this is a great item, but you can sell this stuff online, right? And I had no idea. I had no idea that online yard sales existed. And that day, I spent some time exploring the online yard sales through Facebook and apps, free apps like Let Go and OfferUp, and saw that some of the things that I've been giving away were actually going for sale for many hundreds of dollars. So, I didn't feel right selling any of my friends' things, so that worked out fine. So I went through the pile and gave most of that away. But I had things of my own that were just as valuable that we were looking to get rid of that I did not want to throw away. So that's how we stumbled upon online yard sales, and we have been leveraging them ever since.
And I know you bring this out in your book, but if we decide to run an online yard sale, are we looking to make money, to gain more space in our home, or both?
Both. It's win-win. So I think that it can be a little bit difficult to predict which items will sell and for how much. So, what you really want to aim for ultimately is a little bit of cash in your hands and more space in your home. That's where you feel like it's worth your efforts. So I like to say, make sure you pay yourself enough that it's worth your effort, and try to have a figure in mind that's low enough that people feel inspired to act and inspired to move on it, and that they know they're getting a real bargain, not just a value, but a bargain. That's what people are looking for when they go to a yard sale in person and also online. So ultimately, if the item doesn't sell and you have to give it away or free cycle it, you're still gaining space in your home. You're still preventing it from going into a landfill. And in my book, that's win-win. The goal here is to clear out some clutter so that you aren't tripping over it and you're creating more space in your home.
And you mentioned in your book, but when we see beautiful home pictures set up by local real estate brokers, excuse me, those houses sell 73% faster. And of course, they tell us, clean up the house, get it in good position to take pictures. So this is what most of us want, isn't it?
Yes. I sort of just noticed that when we were looking at open houses, we were coming home and thinking, gee, that house looked so big, but on paper, it has the same amount of square footage as ours, or just a little bit more square footage. And yet we would have to double our mortgage and go through a huge hassle of moving. And we'd probably be bringing our stuff with us anyway. So we started looking around our own home and thinking, how can we make our house more like the homes that we had been visiting through the open houses? Now, in the Boston housing market, as I'm sure it's true in many places, the market is very expensive. And in my opinion, we just were not finding the inventory that we wanted. We weren't finding the homes in the right locations, and we were just getting really frustrated. So in order to be proactive in this situation and not feel so helpless, like, what can we do? We're going to have to pay so much extra money to get a house that's just a little bit bigger. To be proactive, we looked around our own space and started saying, how can we make our home look as beautiful as some of the homes we're visiting? And the answer was to clear out some of the stuff. So
that's a great angle and something for our show, The Secrets of Success, because, and again, I want to give you credit. You mentioned it in your book, take control. And that's exactly what you did of all the things in your home. And you found out you liked it better once it got cleaned up a little bit and the junk got removed. Is that basically it?
Absolutely. In fact, we're still in the same home. So we never ended up moving because we were able to clear out our stuff. And that was really important to me. That's how I live my life, is trying to take responsibility for things and take action. And we really felt like a lot of times people say, well, I'm going to get a bigger house and then we'll spread out our junk over more rooms and more square footage, and then it won't seem like as much. And then what happens is more starts to creep in, and you have this almost like a water line in your home of junk, where you move into the next house and you start to fill that too. So you're not really changing your behaviors. You're not changing your habits if you bring it with you, or you have I'll deal with it later mentality. Or even worse, if you end up moving and putting some things in storage and keeping them there, that gets very expensive month to month, and you're not dealing with the problem. So by dealing with the issue and trying to purge our things, it was exhaustive. It was just so, we spent a lot of weekends trying to do it, and we put a lot of effort into it. And it was almost like not a punishment, but we were forced to face what we had brought into our home. So by dealing with it ourselves, we changed our whole mindset about how we consume products, how we buy things. And that's part of the wealth that we create. We don't buy it in the first place now.
And I know whenever, and we talked about taking control, whenever I've taken greater control of the situation, I personally feel so much better. It's almost if I've won the game or the negotiation or whatever it is. Now, maybe that's just psychological, but just what you're saying, in fact, as I'm reading your book, I'm saying this could be a success book if you just want to reframe it in a different way. You happen to bring it out for online yard sales, but you could rename it and sell it under a completely different section in the bookstore.
Well,
now the big question everybody wants to know, what's the worst offenders? Is it exercise equipment, old pocketbooks, old clothes? What do we find that's around the house? And I know you're a worst offender.
Well, I think that exercise equipment can be a really good thing to broker through online yard sales. We all have this idealist state where we think we're going to pay a top dollar for a piece of exercise equipment, and then the reality is it arrives, maybe we don't have enough room for it, or we just don't use it. So you can try to use it, and hopefully you will, but if you don't and you want to gain more space, or you're moving and you can't take it with you, you can try exercise equipment on online yard sales. And by the way, using online yard sales to buy exercise equipment is a great savings. You can buy bigger exercise equipment for a fraction of the cost of what you would pay new, and probably it's mostly unused. So that's another thing to think about, is exercise equipment, kitchen equipment that you purchased and rarely used. I'm not talking about old things that have barely any life left in them. There's so much in everyone's home that you bought and you have either buyer's remorse, or you just don't use it as much as you think you do. We all have that extra stuff that's hanging around. I'm not talking about selling the couch you're sitting on. I'm talking about finding the extra things in your home that you're not emotionally attached to, that you can sell quickly and easily and get, many hundreds of dollars eventually in your pocket.
We love hearing that because, again, you're hitting 2 points. We're cleaning out the house from that stuff that's been literally sitting there anywhere from 6 months to a number of years and putting money in our pockets. And I can tell you for years, I had a Nordic Track in my bedroom that was the world's most expensive clothes hanger because that's all I did. I put clothes on it. The first week I was skiing in front of the television, and pretty much after that, it sat there. And I think we either donated it or at that time, or it was a garage sale or a yard sale. Deb, before we go further and find out more, I'd like to let our audience know that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Today we're talking to Deb Colameta. She's the author of Best Offer, Best Life. Deb, where can we get this book if we're looking for it?
It is available on Amazon and also on the website, thedebsite.com.
That's a good one. I like that. And to our audience, we always give you this information again, but this is something I would write down because you're going to talk about and see, gee, I wish I remembered what was that website? Where do I go? What's the name of the book? Well, the book is easy. Best Offer, Best Life by our guest, Deb Colameta. But you want to remember this because you're going to be looking for it. You have a lot of time now. We all have more time than we need around the house. Use it to get rid of some of these items, have some fun, and it might even be a little side business, as Deb will get into. You mentioned Parkinson's law in your book, and that was always one of my favorite terms in business school. What is Parkinson's law, and how does it apply to a yard sale?
Well, it's the old rule that a job takes the amount of time that you give it. So it could be, if you take one day to sell all your things and then put all your effort into it, then, the job might take one day or one weekend. If you spend a long time trying to sell all your items, then it's going to take you a long time. If you commit to making this the most time-efficient project, you can snap a few pictures, post it online in a couple of minutes, and then hopefully if a buyer wants to take the item, you can arrange it so that it's an easy pickup. So a job takes the amount of time you give it. So that's one of the things that we explored more in the book is Parkinson's law and also 80-20 rule and so forth.
And we often think of the yard sale, just put the things out, put a few flyers on trees and telephone poles in the neighborhood and drive the neighbors crazy with that. But you told me a few reasons why these are really a lot better and a lot easier before the show. So can you tell our audience, why is it better to go online and do it this way rather than just put the items in your driveway?
Well, it's more convenient. I mean, who today has a chunk of time, multiple hours on end, to spend a Saturday trying to sell their items? And hopefully, if you do have an in-person yard sale, you have the right audience for your things, you need the right traffic to be driving by your house or apartment. There's just too many variables for success in my book. So I feel like you need to give yourself the best position for the best chance of success if this is really going to be worth your time. So you're taking control of the situation. You can post your items as you purge your home so that you don't have a big pile to go through at the end of things. You can post it while you're watching TV. You can just take a few pictures, upload it to a website, and wait for the buyer response. You're taking control of the situation. You're putting yourself in a position where you can have the most chance for success with putting in the least amount of effort. An in-person yard sale can be very time consuming. As you said, you have to canvass the neighborhood, you have to advertise it, you have to prepare the items, maybe put prices on them, you've got to haggle with the people. It can be a little bit overwhelming. And if it's overwhelming, then you might not even start it. And that's a shame. You want to be able to get the items out of your house. And online yard sales are a great way to do that. And if it doesn't sell, you really haven't wasted any time. You can post an ad through an app or Facebook groups in under a minute. So everyone can spare a minute and give it a few weeks if you want to see if it sells. And if it doesn't, then donate it, give it away, or free cycle it. But either way, you're only investing a couple of minutes up front. So it's worth your time. Time is money.
And I think you told me before the show in a humorous way of expressing it. You had a friend who did the typical yard sale. They were outside for 10 hours. What did they make for that 10 hours?
She said she made about $20 and got a sunburn.
And a sunburn. So, I mean, and that's a whole Saturday shot where if you have a couple items you want to try and you can put out there. And by the way, do you recommend people try it like 2 items, 5 items, or should we just go clean the whole house and put 50 items on the internet?
That's a great question. So for me, I feel that doing it in stages is a little bit less overwhelming. I pick a couple of items each week and I will post them. For me, it's easier to keep track of that too. It's easier to keep track of the appointments and who's coming at what time. And so that tends to be my strategy. Plus, I focus on the bigger items, both bigger in size and also a bigger return on my time. So I might sell a piece of furniture that's maybe $100 or $200 versus trying to sell a lot of little items for a couple of dollars here and there. It becomes too much hassle to try to broker those sales. So the other thing is with posting many things on at once, some online yard sale groups through Facebook have rules about this. They actually only allow you to post 1 or 2 items per day. So to try to post multiple individual items can be a little bit tricky. You could post them all in one post on Facebook, but within the online yard sales or within Marketplace. But again, it can be a little bit tricky to navigate unless you're totally paying attention to it. Now, if you use one of the free apps, go to town. You can post as many as you like. You're not showing up in any of your friends' news feeds, and that might be a great way to start. Before you put it in your garage, before you put it in storage or your attic or out of the way, snap a couple of pictures, post it online, and see what happens. What have you got to lose? The only way you lose is if you don't post it at all.
This is like that perfect business. And as you said before, it's less time, more money. So you're turning something that's sitting in your basement, maybe in your way. And I'll use my Nordic track. I think when back in the day, they sold for $500, but I was using it as a clothes hanger. I got rid of it. I got more space, and I don't remember what I got for it, but honestly, I was glad just more getting rid of it, even if it was single digits, just to clean out the room and, not keep seeing it and saying I made a purchase that wasn't worthwhile for me. So
I'm really glad you brought that up because that's one point I wanted to make when you were talking about that exercise equipment. Every time you walk by that piece of equipment, don't you get a little zing of, oh, I should be using that, or, oh, why did I buy that? It's just this little negative zing that you get. And that can be something that almost contaminates your space in a way. So not only did you gain probably 10 square feet by getting rid of it, you also eliminated that icky feeling every time you walked by it and felt guilty. It's just this negative energy that you're bringing into your space. So by letting someone else have it in their home to use or hang clothing on, you're kind of dealing with that issue and taking responsibility for a mistake you made. You're owning it by selling it.
And just to get our audience a little excited, what kind of numbers can we be talking about? Because you told me before the show, and I was really stunned. So tell our audience.
Well, we have made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars through online yard sales. But one of the ways that we've created wealth is through living within our means. The whole purging process change the way we consume items. It changes our buying habits so that we're not buying junk and big footprint items that we're probably not going to use. We don't buy that stuff in the first place. And we see the difference in our credit card bill each month, that it has gone down and we're able to pay it off each month. It makes me feel good to live within my means. It makes me feel good to not live in debt because of these things that we trip over. So yes, we do have a beautiful new sports car. Yes, we have made lots of money so that we can pay for road trips that we do with our family and maybe takeout meals so that I don't have to cook dinner one night, which is awesome. But the real value is from saving money. And that may be boring for some people, but I'm kind of a boring person sometimes.
That's okay. For boring, we'll go with boring if it gives us space, saves money. And for the buyer, what a great way. I think we used the example golf clubs either in our private talk before. But someone trying golf may spend $400 or $500 and more for a new set of clubs. Why? Go to a yard sale, try it, see if you like it. And then if you think you want to stick with it, you go buy the better set and one that's more fitting to your personality, etc. Deb, before we go further, again, I'd like to let our audience know, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success. I'm your host, Bill Horan. You're listening to WHPC 90.3, the voice of Nassau Community College. Our guest today is the author of the book, Best Offer, Best Life. She is Deb Colameta, and she's telling you how you can turn what you might consider junk into money and actually even make it kind of a side hustle doing this. And she seems very happy having done it and, living her life in control rather than out of control. Did I say that correctly?
You certainly did. And that's something to address as well. We all have those moments in life where we feel like we've taken in too much stuff, where it could be after the holiday season. It could be after a kid's birthday party. It could be after a big shopping spree or coming home from vacation. And you look at your things, and we've all had that moment of, oh my gosh, where am I going to put all this stuff? It's a terrible feeling. And it's a first world problem for sure. So, I don't want you to think that I'm comparing it to like a real life problem, but it's a terrible feeling when you're in your own home and you feel like your stuff is just drowning you. And that's why it's important to know that you're in charge of your stuff. So you can take control of the situation. You should feel empowered, and you should be able to get rid of your things in a responsible way. And one of the benefits of online yard sales is that right now, some of the donation centers are not accepting things. But I've noticed a ton of activity in my local community with friends and colleagues who are swapping items or selling them for a lower cost. I just got roller skates for my daughter by going to a big box store. It would have taken maybe 6 to 8 weeks to get those skates. But because I put it out there to my network and I said, hey, does anybody have any extra kids roller skates in good condition? I'll pay for them. I was able to get them the same day. So there's a number of benefits beyond just getting cash in your hand, but I do always try to go for the cash.
You seem to enjoy what you're doing too. Deb, I didn't say it before, but I'd like our audience to know, because I think this is so important to them and something they would like to get into, especially during these times in our lives. Where can we get a copy of Best Offer, Best Life? Where is it available?
It is available at some local bookstores in Boston, but available to everyone through Amazon. And you can also find links through my website, thedebsite.com. And
Deb's last name is spelled Colameta. Her first name is Deb. So if you're looking for the book, and in fact, it's a very short, brief book, right to the point. It makes it so easy. I looked at it and I said, can it really be this easy? Because I'm not a techie person, but you've really made it very simple. What's the marketing psychology of going into a yard sale online? Is there something we should know about there? This is really important. I started to touch on this before, but I feel that online yard sales gives the buyer and the seller more equal footing. So in a yard sale that happens in person, you are the seller is kind of in the, backed into a corner because the buyer is there, they've got the item in their hands, and you don't know if somebody else is going to come along. Maybe you've been sitting there for a few hours. So it's not really very even footing. You're not in a position to negotiate, really. If somebody offers you a terrible offer on your item, you're more interested in selling it and not seeing it go back into your space than saying no to the person, oh, I'm going to try to hold out for somebody else. With the online yard sales, you can cater to people who are educated buyers. So I use the example in the book about a bicycle. If you're selling a bike at an in-person yard sale, you have to hope that somebody who wants a bike is passing by your house. With an online yard sale, somebody who's looking for a bike and wants a bike
is going to search for the term bike or bicycle in the online yard sale group, and then they'll get your post shown to them. So now
we have a motivated buyer. Is that what you're saying?
You have a motivated buyer. Rather than in an in-person yard sale, you're depending on impulse buys to help you turn a profit. And to me, that's just not a time-efficient activity.
Now, do you drop off, deliver to people, or do they come to you to pick up, especially the larger items?
Oh, we will deliver, but there's also a price attached to that.
Okay. No, and that's fair. I mean,
yeah.
So they can come and pick it up, but if they want it delivered, you'll deliver, I guess, within a certain radius, but there's going to be a price for it.
Yeah, and put that in the ad, and people are thrilled to pay a little extra, and you can literally deliver it to their door. So we don't have a pickup truck or anything, but if it makes it easier for somebody and it gets it out of my space faster, of course I'll deliver it for a small fee, especially to local towns. It's got to be local towns because you don't want to be driving for a half an hour to deliver something, because there go your profits. But for something that's a medium-sized item and goes locally, if it insures and locks in the sale, sure, I'll do that.
On TV set, I'm sorry, Deb.
Oh, I was going to mention that with the apps for online yard sales, I should say that I do not give my home address for those particular apps, because you just don't know who's on them. And I try to meet people, or have my husband meet them at the police station or some public place. If somebody says, I don't want to meet you at the police station, then you definitely don't want them meeting you at your house.
Yeah.
So,
very good point for many reasons.
But with the Facebook yard sale groups, you have a good chance of having some degree of separation with the buyer. So if I know that we both have someone in common, I'm more likely to see, I can check out your profile. I know you're a real person. I'm not going to let you into my house, but I will feel comfortable private messaging you with my address. And I just make sure to have another adult there when the sale's transacted. But that I did want to mention that you have to be smart about your safety.
Oh, safety first. And I think that's a very good point. And that's why your book is so good. There's a lot of little tips rather than have all of us go through a learning curve, which is difficult in and of itself. You put it right out there for us. You make it a 3-step process. You make it sound so simple. I mean, it's like really washing your hands and making coffee after that. Deb, once again, I'd like our audience to know that the book we're talking about is Best Offer, Best Life. It's by our guest, Deb Colameta, Colameta. And Deb, I want our audience to be sure to get this before we wrap up. Where can they get the book?
The book can be purchased through the website, thedebsite.com, or on Amazon.
It's easy enough to remember, and it's a good thing to try. What have you got to lose? You clean out some junk. You can always throw the junk out. When I say junk, if it's items that aren't selling, but what you may consider junk, an old set of weights that you have no use for. There's a high school kid who's going for that football team or has some time in the summer, or somebody who wants to join an exercise program would love to have that. And rather than trying to get rid of it, it's all right there for us. Deb, thanks so much for a great book, for a great interview. We'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.